Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. We're going to the next part in this chapter of Siyam. Yesterday we talked about definition of Siyam and some of the virtues of fasting the month of Ramadan specifically. Today we will be talking about how do we confirm the beginning of the month of Ramadan. Specifically, this month is important that we learn when it starts and how do we declare that Ramadan has started. Because of the faridah, the obligation of Siyam, we have to, be quite accurate at the beginning and end of the month. Because Allah says, وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةِ, you have to complete the iddah of Ramadan. So the month of Ramadan starts by seeing the hilal or by completing Sha'ban 30 days, right? And the way you know that the month starts, other than completion of Sha'ban 30 days, is by sighting the hilal, sighting the crescent. There's a hadith on Abi Hurairah, multiple hadith of course. This is just one of them narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صوموا لرؤيته وأفطروا لرؤيته فإن غبي عليكم أو فإن غم عليكم فأكملوا عدة شعبان 30, which means that you fast by sighting the hilal. When you sight the hilal and you break your fast, means you end your fasting period in the month of Ramadan once you see the hilal of Shawwal. But if you cannot see the hilal due to any weather conditions, then you have to complete the Sha'ban, the month that is prior to Ramadan. You have to complete it 30 days, right? Ibn Umar narrates, and this is an authentic hadith as well. He says, تراءى الناس الهلال فأخبرت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أني رأيته فصام وأمر الناس بالصيام. He says, people went out to sight the hilal. Obviously no one saw it, but he did. He says, so I told the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم about my sighting. So he fasted and he ordered the people to fast the month of Ramadan as well. So this hadith they use as evidence that the sighting of one trustworthy person is enough. The sighting of one trustworthy person. And scholars have differed. Some scholars said that we need 2 people, even at the beginning of the month. Most of them said to end the month we need 2 people, just to make sure that we don't break our fast too early. But the beginning of the month, even some scholars said that 2 people. But obviously the hadith indicates that one trustworthy person is enough. For instance, in the madhab al-Hanafi, they say that if the skies are clear, then we need multiple or many people to sight it, to declare that they've sighted it. One would not be enough. 2 or 3 or 4 would not be enough to that extent. But they say if the weather conditions do not permit, then if one sights the hilal, one saw it, then we can take that testimony of the one person. But they say that if it is clear, then why is he the only one to see it? That they rationalize this kind of opinion this way. They said, well, how come this only one person saw it while there are many people sighting the hilal and no one saw it? So, but still, it seems that most scholars agree that one person sights it, regardless of the weather conditions, that should be enough. Okay. And now the second point is, if one locality sights the hilal and they see it while others do not, are they obligated to follow this same location? Like if a different country or different location sights the hilal, do we have to follow them in the fasting?
Not necessarily.
Again, there's 2 opinions on this matter, right? But the vast majority, Jumhur al-Ulama, they say that we should follow. If one sights, then everyone should fast if he came to know about it. And that is based on the wording of the hadith, صوموا لرؤيته, all of you fast when you see it, and all of you صوموا, wawul jama'ah means that everybody, this is what they call khitab lil jami'. It is an order for everybody. All of you fast when it is cited, and we know when it is cited means that based on other hadith that one person is enough. That is madhab al-Hanabila wal-Hanafiyya wa ghayruhum, but the Shafi'iyya are the ones who according to at least one of the The 4 big schools, the Shafi'iyya are the ones who said no, everybody can go by their own sighting, okay? But most of the Imams of Islam have said that if one place cites, then we all are obligated to follow their citing. You follow that? For instance, let me just read to you some of what they said. إن المغني, this is in حنبلي مذهب, وإذا رؤي الهلال وإذا رأى الهلال أهل بلد لازم جميع البلاد الصوم. If one country cites or one province or one place cites, then everybody has to fast.
There's always disparity in our country. Like I'm from Pakistan. What happened? Like our northern areas, they usually follow the Saudi Arabia. So there's always like this. Since I like opened my eyes,
Absolutely, yeah. It will never be solved. We're just telling you what the opinions are. That there's because there's two. These are two valid opinions.
The rule implement like for the whole Muslim community. Like now it's a global thing, right? So if Saudi Arabia decided we follow Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is far away from here, right? Pakistan is very close, like just 4-hour flight from there.
Yes.
So if Saudi Arabia cited any Muslim who cited over there, then it will be implemented for whole Muslim.
Yes. Ideally, it should be implemented. Ideally, if we want to follow the opinion of most scholars, but this will probably never happen unless there's one ruler that's ruling the whole Muslim world. Then he can declare, and everybody would have to fast. But it's now that every country has its own policies, and politics also play into this, as we know. It's going to be there's going to always be two opinions. Some people will follow this opinion, other people will follow that, and both are legitimate opinions. And they use a hadith of Ibn Abbas as well. There's another hadith in which some people fasted, and some people came from Sham going to Medina, and they had fasted a day earlier, and they went to Medina, found that they had sighted the hilal one day later. So they asked, I think it was Ibn Abbas. Can you look up this hadith? Hadith Quraib. اكتب hadith Quraib. Hadith Quraib. في Hilal. Is your phone working? No? You're still opening the phone. So anyhow, so they asked the man who came, will you not follow? I think it was Ibn Abbas. Will you not follow? Is it not enough that you fast with the other place or the other locality? He says no. This is what the Prophet ﷺ commanded us. That was his opinion. So scholars who said no, we don't take the opinion of this Sahabi because that's his opinion. While the hadith is clear, صوموا لرؤيته وأفطروا لرؤيته. So we are more obligated to take the hadith and not the opinion of that companion. You follow? Because this is how he understood it. He says, no, we will take our own sighting, and they can take their own sighting, go by their own sighting. And it was one of the major Sahaba. I think it was in Abbas. Can you look it up for us? Before we finish, inshallah. And but if you started fasting according to a certain location, you went to a different location and they fasted differently, you are obligated to follow them since you are with them right now. So they say even if you had started one day later and they're going to do the Eid, you break your fast and then you do qada some other day, to that extent. So if you're in a community, you follow that community. And if you, for instance, hadn't cited in your country and you traveled and they found them citing, they've already cited, you follow them as well, at the beginning and at the end. Okay?
So at the end, if the founding is 29,
yes.
Well, this is very common in Nigeria. Citing in the 29, say the silent moon,
yes,
that people should break fast. They say, oh, those are Hausa fasting. They are always afraid of counting up to 30. We are going to compete on our own.
Yeah, no. A person should follow the community where he's starting or ending the month. He cannot go alone and decide, take a different opinion. Nah.
So completing 29 or 30 days is not mandatory. You just like go with the
No, 29 would be enough. Like let's say
if let's suppose like the month of Ramadan is 29 days.
Yes.
You came I came from Pakistan and
yes,
to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia like one day earlier.
Yes.
So I'll be doing only 28 days.
28 days. Then you still break your fast with them and you make qada. Because the month cannot be 28 days. You have missed one day. You have missed one day. Can you read it? I will translate. He will read and I will translate.
ما رواه مسلم في صحيح
It's in Sahih Muslim.
مولى ابن عباس أن أم الفضل بنت الحارث بعثته في حاجة إلى معاوية بالشام. قال فقدمت الشام فقضيت حاجتها فحل علي رمضان وأنا بالشام رأيت الهلال ليلة الجمعة ثم قدمت المدينة في آخر الشهر فسألني عبد الله بن عباس ثم ذكر الهلال فقال متى رأيتم الهلال؟ فقلت رأيناه ليلة الجمعة فقال أنت رأيته؟ فقلت نعم ورآه الناس وصاموا وصام معاوية فقال لكن رأيناه ليلة السبت فلا نزال نصوم حتى نكمل 30 أو نراه.
نعم.
فيكفي؟
نعم حديث نعم. So Quraib, he worked for Ibn Abbas. So he went to do some kind of trading or something that he was required to do in Sham. So he went all the way to Syria, and that was ruled by Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. رضي الله عنهم أجمعين. So they had sighted the Hilal Friday night, basically Thursday at night before Friday starts, the night of Friday. So he started fasting with them, or based on that. When he came back to Medina, Ibn Abbas asked him, when did you guys sight the Hilal? He says, we sighted it the night of Friday. And he said, you saw it? He says, yes, I saw it. And everybody else saw it, and we fasted. And Muawiyah also fasted, and he ordered the people to fast. And then he says, but we saw it the night of Saturday, which means that they saw it Friday at night, which is the night of Saturday, which is one day later. So Quraib asked Ibn Abbas, was it not enough, or wouldn't you go with the sighting of Muawiyah? Ibn Abbas said, no. هكذا أمرنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He says, no, this is what the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم commanded us to do. Now, what is he referring to by saying this is what the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم commanded us to do? Maybe he's referring to that it is our obligation to sight the Hilal, and we sighted it the night of Saturday, and this is how we fasted. Maybe they did not know, actually obviously from the conversation they did not know that Muawiyah had sighted it. Otherwise, how he would be asking him these questions when it's impossible for them to know anyhow because of the distance. They didn't have this telecommunication or fast, so obviously he did not know. But if there's a means of knowing, then you're obligated based on the hadith sumu liru'yatihi wa aftiru liru'yatihi. And this is the understanding of Ibn Abbas, and even the wording is ambiguous. You can conclude from it that he did what he was supposed to do based on his knowledge, right? And yes, he did. They sighted the Hilal and they fasted accordingly. So yes, but of course the problem becomes if they sight the Hilal of Shawwal at 28 days, then they know that they were wrong. They will have to make up for one day anyhow, right? Yeah. They would have to make up. But if it turns out to be 29 and the people in Sham fasted 30 instead of 29, then both are acceptable then.
So once people started off late and eventually by 28, the Hilal of Shawwal is already sighted. They cannot say no. We have to continue.
Absolutely, they have to break.
So they have to break.
Absolutely.
And make up for it later.
Absolutely. So this is So if they sighted the Hilal a bit later than they should have, and they only fasted 28 days, and they saw the Hilal of Shawwal, they have to break their fast. Based on the hadith again, وَأَفْطِرُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ, the hadith is clear, which means you were wrong initially and you have to make up for one day. Shawkani says something very nice here. He says, he mentioned hadith صُومُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ وَأَفْطِرُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ. He says, وهذا يعني this خطاب, this wording, هذا لا يختص بأهل ناحية على جهة الانفراد بل هو خطاب لكل من يصلح له من المسلمين. He says the wording is very clear and it applies to every Muslim who hears it. صُومُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ وَأَفْطِرُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ. He doesn't specify special people or special location or special nation. He's talking to the Muslimin, to the Muslims in general. Okay, that's why this opinion seems to be the stronger opinion, and it is also the opinion of the vast majority of scholars. And now we have actually the means to apply it. They did not have the means at the time. Now we have the means that we're not really applying it. Now, and also the author of this book, Tamim, she says, أرى رجحان قول الجمهور بأنه لا عبرة باختلاف المطالع فإذا رأى الهلال أهل بلد لزم جميع البلاد الصوم لقوة الدليل في ذلك. She says there's no, we shouldn't pay any consideration to the difference of matali', which means that the places of rising of the hilal, because obviously the hilal can show up, like for instance later in the western part of the world compared to the eastern part sometimes, or it has its, I don't know the details of this, but obviously we know from astronomy that it can, in some places we'll never be able to see it in certain times, right, or certain days, but we shouldn't pay consideration to that. As long as somebody saw it, then that is enough for us, and we can start as well, you know. It says because the dalil is qawi, the evidence is quite strong and clear. فحديث أبي هريرة الذي استدل به الجمهور في الصحيحين, it is a very authentic hadith, it is in Bukhari and Muslim. سواء كان بين البلدين من البعد ما يجوز مع اختلاف المطالع أم لا فلا يجوز التخصيص إلا بدليل. We can't make an exclusion from this general wording of the hadith except with another piece of evidence. And the piece of evidence they used in the hadith of Qurayb is not enough because it can have different meanings. And even if it had the clear meaning that he understood that they should be different, it is still an opinion of one Sahabi. While the wording of the Prophet ﷺ is clear and we are obligated to follow the Prophet ﷺ, even if the Sahabi understood it differently, unless all the Sahaba understand it this way. Okay, we are obligated to follow the understanding of the Sahaba if they have a consensus on the matter. They didn't understand it any differently. But when they differ, or one of them has an opinion, we're not obligated to follow that. Okay, stop here, inshallah. Now,
when we were doing the introduction yesterday, you read that the fasting will start from the morning to the sunset.
Al-Fajr, now.
Yeah, Fajr to sunset.
Yes.
But we've talked about some exceptional conditions in some part of the world. The people that live in the extreme
Yes.
north and the extreme south
Yes.
of the world.
Yes.
And you were saying yes, they can use Saudis, whatever. So they will deviate from that particular reference. What evidence do you have about that?
Well, if they want, if there's still day and night,
No.
even if the night is very short and the day is very long,
Yes.
to be on the safer side, they should follow the sunrise and the sunset. They should follow that still, if they can. But if it becomes so difficult that the night is only like maybe 2 hours or 3 hours, then it's closer to having no night and day. It's because the majority is day now. It's like 80% of the time of the 24 hours is daytime. So we can consider it like those people who do not have nighttime at all, such as the very, very north, of course, the North Pole. Sometimes it's daytime for several months completely without any night coming at all. So they're closer to that kind of situation. And that the evidence is basically the other hadith that we mentioned of when they used the hadith of Dajjal, when the Antichrist, that he will remain on earth for 40 days. But he says days means periods of time, 40 periods of time. He says one of them is as long as a year, another one is as long as a month, and then a week, and then the rest is equal to our days. Okay. So he said, when they asked him about the longer days, what do we do with those days that are as long as a week or a month or so on? He says you have to make your own calculation as to what constitutes the 24 hours, and you do 5 prayers every 24-hour units, like because you don't have really days and nights. So it's if it's one day is as long as a week. And actually, I thought about this hadith and I said, how could be a day as long as a week, or a month? Maybe there could be some kind of disturbance in the system of the solar system in general, or maybe he would be in one part of the world that's very north or something, and the day could be as long as a week or a month. It could, maybe this is what he meant by that, Allahu A'lam. But basically this is how they concluded now.
Because I've asked one Imam in Nigeria too, that's expressed that statement that how can you people be fasting for 20 hours? You guys should follow Saudi. I said, is it possible we'll be seeing glaring sun and we break fast? Say yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes, absolutely.
I was wondering.
And this is what you will do to sleep, right? You will see it's still daylight, but you will have to set a time. I have to sleep now.
Yes.
It's the same kind of idea.
I've heard that one of the opinion is you can follow one of the major cities.
Closer.
Actually, yeah,
That is closer. Yes.
that's following all the.
I know. These are all opinions, so you can choose. You can choose whatever. They might choose to follow the closest city that has a reasonable day and night.
So, for example, people living in North, they can follow Edmonton.
They can, yeah. So, yeah, these are the two opinions: either to do that, or to follow the timing of Mecca, for instance, because it is the Qibla of the Muslims, or to do an average. You know, what is the average day and average night, and go by an average of all countries in general. You can do that, this or that. These are all opinions. We don't have specific hadith that tells us, or ayah that tells us this is what you do specifically. Some things are left for the people's opinion, or and intellect and yes.
What about the day of Eid? The
Yes.
fasting is.
Prohibited, day of Eid.
So
And
there are people, especially in bigger cities, this happens a lot. And I saw this at the university in college. People telling other people, oh, you're doing haram thing, break your fast, and then the other guys are saying that they're doing haram thing because they're not fasting and stuff like that.
No. He follows that community. We just said that. If he goes to a place and they're starting the Eid, he has to break his fast, even if he had started a day later than them.
See, the problem is the community is broken into so many mosques.
Yes.
They follow a mosque, they don't follow the community. So
Mhm.
if you belong to India and Pakistan, you're always a day behind.
Mhm.
Sometimes even 2 days behind.
Even in Pakistan, they're like different, but we always have two weeks, we always have two different days of Ramadan.
I know, but since there's then this is, if he's following this mosque and this mosque is an area of like 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 people, he's following that community. I think that's fine as well. And there's another community that doesn't really mix with this community that much, and they're following their imam, and that is fine as well. I don't think that this should be a point of conflict, as long as he's not going here to this community sometime when they're fasting later, and then going to this one who are breaking the fast earlier or something like this. He's not picking and choosing. He's following that community, just like people follow different imams. Even in somebody could be praying, following madhab Hanafi or Hanbali, and he's doing something in the salah that the other madhab doesn't do. It's just like, for instance, doing the dua what do you call it? Al-Qunut, dua al-Qunut. Doing dua al-Qunut in Fajr, for instance, or and they do that, for instance, madhab al-Shafi'i, they do that in Fajr, salah, every salah. Yes, they do that. And in Egypt, it was very commonly practiced that every Fajr salah, in the second rak'ah, there's a dua after the ruku'ah. In other madhahib, this is not permitted, but still, you pray behind the imam who does that, you're just going to have to follow that. That's okay. I mean, it's not a big problem, as long as everybody's intention is sincere and they're trying to do their best to obey Allah Azza wa Jal. That should be fine.
What if we follow the community or some imam?
Yes.
What about that hadith you read and sumu ru'yati? What about that?
But that is true. Preferably, the whole community, the whole country should follow one sighting. Not only that, preferably the whole world should follow one sighting. But this has not happened in reality. So you can apply, for instance, sumul ru'yati to that community that you're following, at least. But you don't go on your own and do something separate from the whole community that you are joining in all other activities. So I mean, he's still applying the hadith, but partially. He's applying it based on the opinion of that community, based on what they have cited. Because also difference in citing is also an acceptable opinion as well. Like what would be the other solution? Like for an individual to do something different from the whole community? I mean, that's going to create more conflict. As you know, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, when he followed his imam, Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, he was the Khalifa. When he did the salah 4 rak'at instead of 2 rak'at, I think in Arafah, and it's supposed to be 2 rak'at. They advised him, but he insisted to do it 4 rak'at, and that was not even in the beginning of Khilafah. In the latter part, the first part, he was doing 2 rak'at, as the Sunnah is. But they still prayed behind him a full 4 rak'at, and when they were asked why would they then pray behind him, he says, "Inna al-Khilafah shar." He says conflict and disputes between Muslims is an evil. So we're going to have to choose which is the bigger and which is the lesser evil here, okay? In most situations in real life, it's not clear-cut halal and haram, or clear-cut goodness and clear-cut evil. There's usually goodness with some evil included in it. And your role is to see what is the biggest evil to avoid and what is the biggest benefit, and to achieve that, to aim for the biggest benefit and avoid the biggest evil as much as you can. Now, but yeah.
If you start doing miscalculations from day one, how do you calculate the Shab al-Qadr?
How you calculate Laylatul Qadr? And again, even Laylatul Qadr, even if, no matter how much you calculate, it's the last 10 nights. So you don't really know when it is. But it's all based also on intention. Yani you do your best, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give the person the reward and the blessing of Laylatul Qadr based on his actions and his intentions and his due diligence in following the sunnah.
You told us that itikaf that can be done based on niyat, maybe hours or few days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's not the full proper i'tikaf of the 10 days. But still, if you cannot do the full 10 days, if somebody chooses to do parts, like he comes after work, he says, okay, I'm going to go to work and then come back and do i'tikaf till next morning, that is better than not doing at all. Now.
I was saying
Yeah.
if Muslims can agree to a date for Eid, for both Eid,
Yes.
then we may be able to get a stat holiday. This has been,
Oh, seriously?
Yes.
But still, they won't. Even.
Actually, a few years ago in New York, the mayor considered, making it a municipal holiday over there. But the Muslim couldn't come to it.
But how can they come to a day and it's changing every year?
No, but even if it's changing every year, but if it's one day of the year.
Oh, okay. But they won't know until the month starts. How would they even know?
Yeah,
It's tough.
But I've heard.
We're following a different calendar.
That if you agree to one day, you might be able to get a stat holiday out of it.